Hello dear students, last time we have discussed the different component of IC engine, working of that component, what are the stresses on that component produced, and then we have discussed the design of cylinder and cylinder head. Then we have discussed the example for the cylinder and cylinder head, and today we are going to discuss on piston. Okay, so it is look like only piston, but it is not only piston. You can see here total 8 part contain this piston. Okay, so let's here discuss first of all what is the function of piston. So piston is the disc which reciprocate within the cylinder inside the engine cylinder. Okay, and these are the parts. Construction of piston. Let's see the construction of piston. So first of all, piston head or crown. So you can see here this is a piston head, or we can say piston crown. Okay, now second part is piston barrel. So it support the piston. Let us understand the function of that particular part. So piston head, it withstand the cylinder gas pressure. Okay, so whatever the gas generated above the piston, so it withstands the cylinder gas pressure. It has a flat or concave shape depending upon the construction of combustion chamber. The next is piston barrel. It supports the piston head and provides the seat for the piston rings. So these are the piston barrel. Okay, so this is a piston barrel. It's provide the compression ring and oil ring, means it support the piston rings, and it's also support the piston head. Okay, now third is piston ring. It is also very important part of piston. So there are two types of piston ring. First is compression ring and second is oil ring. So what is the use of compression ring? Actually you can see here compression ring, but in actual practice there is a different situation on which we have to put the piston ring. Okay, so we have to select piston ring gap that we have to put in a different way, different angle, so the gas generate above the piston, it will not go outside. Okay, it will not leak from here. Okay, so that's why, but main function of compression ring is to the gas above the piston, it cannot leak of this gas. Okay, it is not gas is not able to leak from anywhere. That's why here compression ring. And oil ring, you can see here the piston pin, here one gap is there, and the oil come from this way, and it's from the oil control ring, it cannot oil cannot go above the oil control ring. It's just pull out from here, whatever the oil over here come to here for oiling, and it just it's just blow down side. Okay, now you know the difference between compression ring and oil control ring. Okay, now then piston skirt, it's act as a bearing for the connecting rod side thrust. What do you mean by side thrust? So here when the gas generated over here, when the blast over here, then there is a certain side thrust. Side thrust means this is a side thrust. Suppose say this is a cylinder. Okay, so here side thrust, due to the side thrust, okay, so due to the side thrust, it may be damage the cylinder liner. Okay, so piston skirt, it act as a bearing for connecting rod side thrust. Then reinforced rib. So rib act as a stiffener for the piston head and piston skirt. So here you can see the rib. There are maybe 4 to 5 rib over here, which support, which provide the stiffener, provide and act as a stiffener for the piston head. Okay, and piston skirt. Then piston pin, or we can say gudgeon pin. So the function of it is connect the piston to the connecting rod. So here you can see this is a piston, gudgeon pin will be placed over here. So basically these are the different parts of the piston. Now let us see what are the material we can use for the piston. So in a modern trend, I say engine is to increase the power to weight ratio. Means what? You know this word, power to weight ratio. Means before few years, say 30 kg of engine, not 30, 300 kg of engine produce 70 HP power, okay, 70 horsepower. But nowadays, instead of 30, we can produce 70 HP power with 200 kg. So this is called the power to weight ratio. It is increase the power to weight ratio. Okay, hope you are understand. So this has a lead to improve the engine design with the higher compression ratio and higher speed. As the compression ratio increase, power efficiency is also increase. The higher engine speed means a higher piston speed, which may reach up to 20 meter per second or even more. So heavy piston with the higher piston speed develop high inertia force. If the piston have a high mass, then it create a high inertia force, which are undesirable. Therefore, high speed engine, the piston must be light in weight. So desirable property should, here you can pause the video and you can read this all the property of piston. It should have a high strength to withstand the high gas pressure. It should have a heat resistance, also withstand the high temperature. It should have lightweight and minimize the inertia force. It should have a good thermal conductivity, so it can be quickly removed, okay, from the piston crown and rings and then cylinder wall. It should have a low coefficient of thermal expansion and so minimize the expansion of high temperature at the high temperature. It should have a uniform thermal expansion so as to avoid the distortion at the high temperature. It should have a high wear resistance. It should have a low coefficient of friction. It should have a low bearing property. So these are the desirable property that piston should have. Okay, now let us see the material. Which are the material we can use for the piston? So first of all, cast iron. Okay, right now cast iron is not used, but this is from the long time it is paperwork. So cast iron, there are some advantage and disadvantage of cast iron, but nowadays cast iron is not used because of the high mass. Okay, the cast iron has a good strength, good wear resistance, good temperature resistance, has a low coefficient of friction, thermal expansion, whatever. Disadvantage of cast iron is cast iron has a high weight, that is a disadvantage, and low thermal conductivity. Use of cast iron piston, the moderate power engine with the piston speed below 6 मीटर पर सेकंड. जो पिस्टन जो है वो बहुत कम वेलोसिटी से कम वेलोसिटी होती है, उन पे कास्ट आयरन अप्लाई हो सकता है. नाउ एल्यूमिनियम एलॉय, नाउ डेज यूज एल्यूमिनियम एलॉय, निकल एलॉय. ठीक है, सो एडवांटेज ऑफ एल्यूमिनियम एलॉय, इट हैज़ अ लाइट वेट, good thermal conductivity, 3 times lighter than the cast iron. It contains the aluminum oxide, tin, aluminum alloy. Piston improve the wear properties. Disadvantage, cost may be high. Cost is high, but aluminum alloy exhibits the fast reduction in setting high temperature, high coefficient of thermal expansion. Use of aluminum alloy piston. So here you can read this by pause this video. The power engine with the high speed can use the aluminum piston. Now alloy cast iron and alloy forged steel is also used. Okay, so these are the basic regarding the material of piston, part of the piston. Okay, so you should remember this all the things, and next time we are going to design of piston, different part of the piston. Okay, so thank you. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.